America's Next Top Model ran for 24 cycles across 15 years. It was one of the most watched shows on television. It launched careers and it genuinely changed how diversity was represented on screen. Tyra Banks built something massive, but the women who actually lived through it are telling a very different story. Thanks to two major documentaries coming in early 2026, that story is finally getting the attention it deserves. This is not a nostalgia recap. This is about a pattern of behavior, manipulation, exploitation, and a near total refusal to take real accountability. That pattern stretched from the very first season all the way to the last. America's Next Top Model premiered on UPN in 2003. Tyra Banks was its creator, its host, its executive producer, and its most powerful judge. She had more control over this show than almost anyone else in reality television at the time, which means the things that went wrong on it are, in large part, on her. Let's start with the moment that most people think of first. In 2006, during Cycle 6, a contestant named Dani Evans quickly became a fan favorite. She was talented, she was magnetic, and she had a natural gap between her front teeth that she loved. It was part of her identity. When the show's makeover episode came around, producers took the girls to a dentist. Dani said no to closing her gap. She said it was who she was. The dentist respected that. Tyra did not. At the next judging panel, Tyra looked at Dani and said, "Do you really think you can have a CoverGirl contract with a gap in your mouth?" She called it unmarketable. She made clear that if Dani did not comply, she was going home. Dani later described the moment clearly. She felt that her life was being toyed with consciously, and that her saying no and the show going against that was invasive. She had the gap partially closed. Then she went on to win the entire competition. Years later, in the Netflix documentary Reality Check, Inside America's Next Top Model, released in February of 2026, Tyra addressed the controversy for the first time on camera. She said it was a difficult situation and that agents had told her Dani would not work in the industry with those teeth. She framed it as doing what was best for Dani's career. Dani's response was bullshit. She said Tyra knew exactly what she was doing, making good television at Dani's expense. And here is the detail that makes Tyra's justification completely collapse. 9 cycles later, in cycle 15, a different contestant named Chelsea Hersley was actually encouraged to have a gap put into her teeth, modeled after the iconic look of supermodel Lauren Hutton. The same host who told a black woman her gap was career-ending turned around and gave a gap to someone else as a selling point. Dani also later found out that Tyra had called her years after the show to acknowledge she could have opened more doors for her, but had chosen not to. If you are already feeling some type of way about this, you should be, and there is so much more to get into. Hit subscribe so you do not miss what is coming, and drop a comment below telling me if you watched America's Next Top Model growing up. I want to know what you remember. Now let's keep going because it gets worse. Let's talk about one of the most iconic moments in reality television history, which somehow did not come from a challenge or a photo shoot. It came from an elimination. Tiffany Richardson was a contestant on Cycle 4, which aired in 2005. She was funny, she was real, and she came from genuinely difficult circumstances. She had a young son at home, she had struggled financially, and she had opened up about those struggles on the show. When she was eliminated alongside fellow contestant Rebecca Epley, Rebecca cried. Tiffany, who was exhausted from weeks of emotional breakdowns, chose a different response. She tried to lighten the mood for the other girls, smiled, and told them to cheer up. Tyra called them both back before they left. She praised Rebecca for her tears. Then she turned to Tiffany and lost it completely. Tyra told her she was extremely disappointed. When Tiffany tried to speak, Tyra yelled at her to be quiet, then delivered the line that became one of the most replayed clips in reality TV history. Tyra said, "I have never in my life yelled at a girl like this. When my mother yells like this, it is because she loves me. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. What the cameras did not show was worse." In a later interview, Tiffany said the rant was 1,000 times worse in real life and that Tyra told her off camera that she could go home and sleep on her mattress on the floor with her baby, a direct attack using the personal details about poverty that Tiffany had trustingly shared with the show. Fellow contestant Brittany Brower backed this up, saying there was a lot more anger that viewers never saw, and that Tyra seemed to want Tiffany to be devastated, and when she was not, she just lost it. When Tyra addressed this moment in the 2026 Netflix documentary, she admitted she went too far, but Tiffany was not in that documentary. In a since-deleted Instagram post, she called Tyra a bully and accused her of rewriting history, saying she treated her like nothing and said the nastiest things about her and her son. Then there is the question of race, and this show has a lot to answer for. In 2005, during Cycle 4, America's Next Top Model staged what it called an ethnicity swap photo shoot. Contestants were made up to look like women of different racial backgrounds. White models were darkened to appear Black or South Asian. Black models were lightened and styled to appear white, Native American, or Korean. The shoot was framed as a celebration of how makeup could transform a person. Tyra later said she did not think it was controversial at the time, and that it was her way of showing the world that brown and black is beautiful. The world strongly disagreed, and incredibly, the concept was repeated 9 cycles later in Cycle 13. But the show's issues with race and identity were not limited to one photo shoot. They showed up in the judging room too. Yaya DaCosta was a contestant on Cycle 3 in 2004. She had Nigerian and Brazilian roots. She was a Brown University graduate, and she was proud of her African heritage. During a challenge where models had to style a look around a hat, Yaya chose a cowboy hat and then added elements that connected to her roots. She did not choose the faux kente cloth hat the judges were steering her toward. She explained clearly that it felt cheap and like a stereotype. The judges did not like that. Guest judge Rebecca Weinberg told Yaya that her intensity to prove her Africanness was overbearing, while another judge said it looked like she was about to ride a giraffe. When Yaya tried to defend herself, Tyra told her she was being defensive and it was not attractive. Yaya made it to the next round, but Tyra told her that the photo was amazing, and what was not amazing was her appearance. Think a little more glamour as opposed to natural. She was then made to stand up in front of the judging panel and apologize to the hat. Yes, apologize to the hat. Yaya later said it took a lot of work to heal from that experience, and that looking back she felt so much for the eager, vulnerable young version of herself. The show's treatment of body image was equally damaging. In Cycle 4, a contestant named Kenya Hill became the subject of one of the most uncomfortable storylines in the show's history. At panel, Judge Janice Dickinson called her piggy chic, while the other judges commented openly on her weight and her stomach. For an animal-themed shoot, she was cast as the elephant. When her photos came back, she was told, in front of the entire group, that producers had to retouch her images more than anyone else's. The show kept returning to her eating habits, her body, and her weight week after week, and called it honest feedback. The cruelty was not always about appearance. Sometimes it went deeper than that. In Cycle 4, a contestant named Kaylin Ronde received a phone call the night before a photo shoot telling her that her best friend had been killed in a car accident. She missed the funeral. The next morning, she was taken to the set anyway. The theme was the 7 deadly sins. Her assignment was wrath. She posed in a grave. And then there is Lisa D'Amato. Lisa first appeared on Cycle 5 in 2005 and later returned to win the All-Star Cycle 17 in 2011. From the beginning, her time on the show was shaped by something producers should never have touched. At her original audition, Tyra Banks and the judges repeatedly questioned her about her relationship with her abusive mother, pressing her to share details she did not want to give. That information was then used as material throughout the show. Lisa later alleged she was set up to be publicly humiliated again and again so Tyra could make money. What happened when she was invited onto the Tyra Banks show in 2005 was in a category of its own. Lisa had one condition: her childhood trauma was not to be discussed, not hinted at, not referenced. She made this clear to producers multiple times over the weeks leading up to the taping. Each time she was reassured. The night before filming, she got yet another call confirming the topic was off limits. She showed up. While she was in the makeup chair, she heard a production assistant mention over a walkie-talkie that another former contestant's estranged father had been brought to the studio, the same father who had caused that woman serious harm. Lisa tried to warn her. Then she was walked to the stage. The teleprompter lit up. It announced to the live studio audience that Lisa had been sexually abused throughout her entire childhood. She was pushed out onto the stage before she could process what was happening. When she left the stage, a production assistant took her to a closet and locked the door, telling her she would not receive her payment for the appearance if she did not return. She was locked in there for approximately 30 minutes. In the documentary series Dirty Rotten Scandals, which aired in March of 2026, Lisa described what the show did to her as weaponizing her trauma. She called the entire experience psychological warfare. She was clear that she did not believe Tyra had ever been held fully accountable for what happened. She is not alone in that assessment. When old ANTM clips went viral in 2020 and sparked a wave of public criticism, Tyra responded on social media. She tweeted that she agreed those were really off choices and sent love and virtual hugs. No specific apology, no acknowledgement of the individuals who were harmed. Then came Reality Check in February of 2026, Netflix's 3-part documentary in which Tyra appeared on camera, seemingly ready to face the show's legacy. Critics and viewers noted that the tone leaned heavily on context, framing controversial decisions as products of the time rather than sitting fully in the damage they caused. Tyra acknowledged she went too far in moments, but repeatedly redirected to industry pressures, audience demand, and the era the show was made in. Lisa D'Amato was not in that documentary. She pointed out publicly that Tyra had a heavy hand in the creative direction of Reality Check, and that she did not trust anything Tyra touched. She appeared instead in the E!Network's competing documentary Dirty Rotten Scandals, which promised to tell the full story without Tyra's fingerprints on it. Former judge Janice Dickinson appeared in that documentary and said producers, especially Tyra, had actively pushed her to be harsher and crueler with contestants. Cycle 8, winner Jaslyn Gonzalez said something even more pointed. The show was really about Tyra Banks, and she did not think Tyra was ever going to try to make anyone more famous than herself. At an awards ceremony in 2025, Tyra said she refused to have her legacy defined by clips linked together on the internet, insisting that 24 cycles of the show had changed the world. And here is the thing, in some ways it did. America's Next Top Model put plus-size models, transgender models, models with vitiligo, and women of color on national television at a time when the fashion industry was doing none of that. The show opened doors that genuinely did not exist before it. That is real. But opening doors for representation while simultaneously humiliating the people walking through them is not something you get to call a legacy of empowerment. You do not get to pressure a woman in her 20s into a dental procedure she does not want, then privately admit years later that you could have helped her career and chose not to. You do not get to drag someone onto a live stage and announce their childhood sexual abuse to an audience of strangers after promising you would not. You do not get to cast a grieving woman in a grave the morning after her best friend dies and call it a photo shoot. The women who were on this show were young, they were vulnerable, and they trusted that the people in power around them had their best interests somewhere in mind. Some of them have spent years in therapy working through what happened. Some of them are still talking about it because no one has ever properly answered for it. What Tyra built was real. What it cost the people who built it with her is also real. And the least those women deserve after everything is for someone to look them in the eye and actually mean the words, "I am sorry." That has not happened yet. If this video made you feel something, let me know in the comments. I read every single one. If you are not subscribed yet, now is a good time. There is a lot more coming.